I don't think I have to introduce Luminus here to the audience. I think most of you know what Luminus does, who we are. I think you checked the news recently, but most of you probably don't know me. So I'm Bart Severy. I'm the data platform owner of the data platform team at Luminus. I've been working at Luminus since 2005, quite a while. Started in the CRM domain. I was an SAP expert back in the days. I left Luminus for a few years to work closer to home in a non-profit organization, and I returned in 2018 to Luminus to join what was then called the BI team. When we started our NEO journey in 2020, we had 2 internal data scientists working at Luminus, both at the optimization team. You had Bernard doing the forecasting, and you had Nick at the pricing team, and both of them had developed quite a number of AI/ML models that were up and running. Both developed it on their own environment. Bernard did it in his own self-service AWS account. Nick did it on his local computer. But then, beside that, we also had a lot of experiments running in other departments. Some of them were developed by freelancers, some by consultants, and some by data scientists between the soup and the potatoes, like we used to call that. All of these things were running on their own environments, but they were promising and they were delivering the results. Now, into 2020, we were at the IT side, we had a BI team. We had a data warehouse to be taken care of, on-premise, Oracle data warehouse, very classical. And we also had a ClickSense platform. So our focus was mainly there. So it was pretty normal that at that point in time, these guys created their shadow IT solutions to move forward. Now, when we started our journey, it was very important for us to support our business better in their needs for AI/ML. So we decided as IT also to start focusing on the infrastructure for AI/ML use cases, and we're going to build our cloud data platform with a clear focus on those use cases. So we started a study, selected a number of use cases, and off we went. One of the first things that we discussed in our project was basically how should we deal with this? So the team, with data-minded, we together decided, look, we need to find how we should get organized. How should our operating model look like? Of course, we needed an architecture, because that's the basis of what we need to do. Plus, we built also a very clear business roadmap for the first year composing of those prioritized use cases. Now, looking at the operating model, this worked with a few very clear layers, and you will hear some terms that you've already heard before. We worked with a landing zone. Those were the techie IT guys, the DC operations guys. In our case, they were the cloud owners. They're also going to connect whatever infrastructure that we built to the cloud. Second layer, that's the platform layer. That's the layer Nathan just described very passionately. That's the team of which I am the product owner. This is also more a technical-oriented team, with the platform owner being myself, and our responsibility was going to be to build and manage that self-service data platform that should enable use case teams to build their data products going forward. Plus, we would also be responsible for making sure that our platform kept evolving, that we kept adding capabilities to our platform, and that we also had a close eye on new technologies to see where we could create new business value. And very important is the top layer, basically. That's the business-oriented layer, where we get organized by domain with a clear business data product owner, and these teams were going to be responsible for their end-to-end data product lifecycle, both the development aspect to make the products, but also to maintain them, to operate them going forward. And these guys were also going to take care of business requirements and make sure that we produce the right business value. On the architecture side, our platform was mainly based on AWS. Luminus already made a few choices. Our complete SAP landscape moved to AWS, so that was a given. And for our data processing, we decided to go with Conveyor as a solution. We were convinced at that point in time that it would reduce the technical complexity. Sorry, I should drink. And it would reduce the technical complexity a lot. We did not have a lot of technical skills or experience in this domain, so it was very important that we selected a tool that would limit the technical complexity on the platform side. That was one thing, because we wanted to use the new technologies and the services in the cloud, but we would not want to organize and operate all of them ourselves. But also we were even more convinced that it would drastically reduce the technical complexity on the use case teams, because these teams should not take into account all the nuts and bolts of working with a containerized platform, which Conveyor in the end is. We put up all our services on AWS in place. That's an activity we did with the platform team. Plus, we also set up an experimentation environment in which that new data scientists could start doing new machine learning models based on a service of AWS SageMaker, and we integrated that service in the Conveyor product that we were using. We later on also started using GitLab. We start with Bitbucket, are now still in the, I think we already almost did the migration, and we're going to start using our first CI/CD pipelines early next year. In the meantime, we also work with Great Expectation for data quality check and with Data Hub as a data catalog. To put this architecture in place, the initial phase, we took 3 months. So we put in place the landing zone, which was the AWS account that connected us to the network. We put in place our platform account. It was the AWS account where all the data lake was, and also the security and the network. That was the platform where we also were able to run our Conveyor workloads. After this initial phase of 3 months, we were ready as a team, as a platform team, to support our first use case. That was the wind power forecast of the optimization team. In that first quarter, after putting in place this architecture, we embedded the use case team in the platform team to make sure that all our capabilities were ready to be used going forward. I'm going to run you through a number of lessons that I learned in that period. I will repeat some of the topics that have been said. So if you play bullshit bingo, you can put things on your cards. Very important if you want to work in the model that we have, it's of course that you have the most technical people in your landing zone team. These are the real infra guys. It's also important to have the right knowledge in your platform team and in your landing zone team, and your use case teams. But it's also very important that you clearly align on the mission of the use case team. In our case, we clearly decided, look, these use case teams are going to be responsible for automation. So we clearly said, look, on the automation, we will organize our use case teams as Scrum teams, because on Luminus IT, we work in an agile way of working. We work with Scrum teams, but we should not have our new machine learning experiments being organized in Scrum, because it does not work. This is not time-based. Let them do it Kanban-based. So for the data science, the people of business are completely in the lead, but for the use cases, we decided to work in Scrum. So every 3 months, we decide which models are we going to automate, and at that point in time, we start the automation in the use case teams. Also very important topic that you just heard, learning. When we did our initial program, not too many people at Luminus had experience in data science. We had 2 internal guys, like we said. So we basically made a complete learning journey aimed at teaching new people at Luminus, people that we would onboard later on, because we would like to scale to more people. We had learning journeys with online courses, but also a lot of data-minded classroom trainings that we organized in that period. We also worked quite a lot last couple of years with young joiners who went through the training track and were able to get up to speed rather fast in that new environment. And lately, I think, last thing on the talent acquisition, we noticed that if we wanted to get a true good scale, we should also invest more in internal capabilities. So we hired, I think, 2 additional data scientists and 2 extra internal data engineers, and I think more recruitments are still on the planning going forward. So it's very important that you hire the right people and that you make learning a priority, because if you don't learn these new skills, you will not move forward. If a nice quote I encountered from Henry Ford pretty much described the situation we were sometimes in the beginning, but still as a platform team in. He says, if I would have asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. What we noticed that if we are going to put in place certain enablers which are quite new for many stakeholders at our company, you don't have to ask them from day one, what are your requirements, because people sometimes just don't know. I'll give an example on the IT side. We had a change and release management team, where we had a change management responsible for the infrastructure changes, and a release manager who was responsible for the software releases, the application releases. in their team meeting at a certain point in time, we had to explain them, look, from now on in our platform, infrastructure is code that is programmed with versions that can be released. Yeah, at that point in time, that has a huge impact on how they organize their work. So it's not just a statement that goes for business people, but even inside your IT organization, you have to take that into account. Now, I'm happy to say that Luminus IT invested a lot in the meantime, a lot of training on Agile, but also on cloud. I think the complete IT team went through the AWS fundamentals. So some of my colleagues complaining that it was not that relevant for them, but I noticed in our case that it helps a lot, that it creates awareness on what we are doing. Also very important there is the importance of demos and proof of concepts. You cannot underestimate how important it is, even for quite technical things like infra as code. Some of our business managers in our additional phase, they came to the initial demos and they really truly understood how our platform works, and it also gave them a very good idea on the complexities of some of the things that we were doing. And lately we're also doing a lot of proof of concepts also as a way to take away uncertainty, to explore things as a platform team, but also to show to different other stakeholders that it's okay to do certain things in a new way that we've not done before. Very important topic also is to balance speed with quality. In the beginning, when we were talking with some of our IT stakeholders about going for DevOps, they only heard speed. That was a big worry. And to use a few stereotypes, and I don't think Luminus is there the exception, is that people from IT think that people from business want to go too fast. People from business think that IT people go too slow. IT people want to deliver quality. Business people want to deliver value as fast to customer. And it's all right, but you have to find the right balance there. And I think one of the game changers in how we set up the organization in our particular environment was that we combined the development and the operations responsibilities in the same team. It's like having these teams eat their own dog food or drink their champagnes. What did we see? Business product owners that certainly were not only responsible for delivering features fast, but they're also responsible for doing it right. Because if they didn't do it right, they had to spend a lot of time of their team on fixing the stuff they had done wrong. And I think some time ago, Pascal, you remember the meeting? We had a conveyor workshop with people from business, and Pascal was showing these 4 KPIs and also explaining how we could get this data out of conveyor. And it was very funny that we got most pushback on the speed ones, not from the IT guys in the room, but from the business guys. These business product owners said, look, we're going fast enough. We just need to make sure that our quality gets up to level. So I think there, by organizing yourself in a different way, you can also start setting common boundaries. I think that's a major milestone in what we did. Also very important, also going a little bit further on the message of Nathan, I think. In the beginning, we set up a number of capabilities that we needed to set up our initial roadmap. But after a while, quarter by quarter, we start identifying, look, which new cases require new platform capabilities and how we as a platform team can support that. Now, you can't build Rome in one day. So what we have to do a lot of the time is basically cut the elephant in pieces, identify a clear use case that produces value, put a first version, like an MVP version of that enabler in place, and take time to optimize that enabler later on to scale it to different use cases and also to scale it to different teams. That avoids as a platform team that you see things too big, that you over-engineer things, but it also clearly requires the discipline of planning that second step. So it's not because you put the MVP in place that your enabler is like scalable already. That's also something that is very important to take into account. And also on the level of our data scientists and data engineers, they were also looking for reusable components and to identify patterns. So we had on the data engineering side, we made a common library of Python functions that could be used by all data engineers. And more recently, the data scientists did the same for their experiments. That has, of course, a positive impact on quality, but also a very positive impact on speed. And even more so because the data scientists now do their experimentation in SageMaker with certain function. The re-engineering effort to automate that use case has gone down drastically. We have examples where we put live new models in 2 weeks. That's one sprint. I think that's a quite a remarkable achievement, and we're very proud of that. Topic that's been mentioned also a lot, security versus usability. What we notice a lot is that we have a lot of GDPR, NIST, CIS, all these compliancy things to be taken into account. And sometimes I have the feeling that if we have to put all these things in place to the max, nobody would use our platform anymore. So we as a platform team, what we a lot do is play the role there between the customer and compliance. And for some of the security regulations, in accordance with the security guys, we had to ask for clear exceptions, because otherwise the work of some of our data scientists or data engineers would become impossible, and they would start building shadow IT solutions again. So finding the right balance between security and usability has been a constant point of attention in our journey on our Neo platform. On data governance, I already heard the garbage in, garbage out statement, I think by Jelena or by Nathan. But if you do artificial intelligence machine learning cases, it becomes even more important. So I think by rolling out some of these use cases, it also became very apparent for business stakeholders that data quality was not just something about a wrong number in a report, but that could also drastically impact the behavior of some of their models. So I think there, in the meantime, we started a data governance initiative. Rolling out these new use cases helped us create a lot of awareness with a lot of business stakeholders on why they should worry about data quality. And on the other hand, the data swamp, absolutely true. We rolled out a lot of use cases in the beginning, and at some point in time, you see that you're reaching a tipping point where you need to invest in a data catalog to prevent your data lake from becoming a data swamp. So we put in place, after alignment with Pascal, we put in place Data Hub as a tactical solution for documenting our data. This not only helped data scientists to find easier the data sources that were already on our platform, but it also avoided that people kept asking the same questions over and over again to the same expert. So that was also, I think, a very important lesson that we learned. Data analytics is a team sport. That's the last cliche that I will bother you guys with, but it's very, very true. I mean, in the journey that we undertook, I've been talking a lot about learning and about competence, but trust was also key in realizing what we did in the time frame that we worked upon it. It was very important to have trust within the teams, of course, because if anybody who's ever worked in a Scrum team knows that if you don't trust each other, it will become a mission. But also between the layers in the model that we put in place, and also between a broader audience of stakeholders, trust is key. And I'm very happy that we, in a very early stage, got the management buy-in, and even on C-level, the buy-in to really move forward with this journey. It got the momentum going, and it kept the momentum going. And also the hiring of the additional people, that's absolutely because some of our major stakeholders really believed in the path that we set out. I don't think you can appear on an event like this if you don't have at least one infographic, so this is the one. I'm not going to read all the numbers, but to mention a few, in the meantime, we have put 23 projects live on our Conveyor environment. And this is like, there are some modeling projects, some are data ingestion projects. We have 23 data sources live, and any one of these data sources consists of a number of data sets who are all now in data catalog. And I think Stijn sent me recently the numbers. We are more than 30 or 35 Conveyor users. But if I really filter out the very active ones, we have about 10 very active data scientists on Conveyor and 10 to 11 very active data engineers. And also, testimonial of the use of our experimentation environment. We have about 100 SageMaker notebooks that have been created so far, and 28 people using this. Plus, in the meantime, we are at 6 Scrum teams, 1 platform team, and 5 of those use case teams. Some of them only consist of 3 people, in all honesty, but some are quite big in the meantime. Now, what do we do as Luminus? I mean, one of our pillars in our strategy is to be a leader in renewable energy. And of course, if you want to support that energy transition, it's very important that you're able to at least get some control on the wind and the solar, on the sun, to the extent that is possible. So a lot of the effort of the optimization team has gone into making models that are better able to predict the wind at some places where our turbines are, and also get a good view on the production of the solar energy. But in the current market situation, I think it's also clear for everybody that it's not only about forecasting. For us, it's also very important to keep a good eye on the price. Also, a lot of effort in the optimization department has gone into models, being able to better predict prices on the market, although that has become quite challenging last couple of months, of course. Now, if I ask Bernard and Nick, the guys that talked about in the beginning, what do they really like about the platform that we put in place? And they say, Bart, it's not only scalable on the marketing slides, we are really now able to use much more powerful models. We have more data at our disposal. We can do better our job, and they can just produce much more use cases with the same effort. So they are very happy users of our platform. Now, also on the retail side, we have in the meantime automated a lot of use cases. The classics on churn prediction, lead qualifications, we've all done that. But more recently, we did quite an interesting one. It was the long-term forecast. The long-term forecast at Luminus, it's basically a process in which we try to predict the price and the volumes of our B2C customer portfolio to manage the energy price risk. Also, in the current situation that we as a company are in, it's a very important one. And you see the difference here. Right? Before we did the onboarding of the use case on the Neo platform, it was a process that was running for 7 days on an SAP system with different manual interactions. There were almost no automated checks. And because of the fact that it took so long, we couldn't do any scenario simulations on that. While we did the onboarding in Neo, now the model itself runs in 20 minutes. There is like a day that we need to process all the things in total. We included a lot of validations and a lot of checks in that process. So I think this is a very nice example of how you can move faster while at the same time increasing the quality of what you're doing. So this is a very nice case to convince people who are worried that it's all about speed and not about quality. That's the next step. We have done Neo. We started it at the beginning of 2020 as a project really focused on AI/ML. It took for a year. Then we did until a few months ago, we're purely focused as a platform on machine learning use cases. But more recently, we were also tackling the modernization of our BI environment. Remember the environment that I talked about, the data warehouse and ClickSense? We're also now onboarding that on the cloud. And that's part of the Trinity program. The Trinity is the girlfriend of Neo, but that's not the reason for the name. In the Trinity program, we have 3 pillars. We keep extending our data platform for machine learning use cases, but now also for data warehouse. In that program, we are also going to migrate all our on-premise data warehouse workloads to our platform. And as a 3rd pillar, we are going to invest even more in data governance practices because we are convinced that if you want to improve your way of working with data, it's not just about technology and organization. We also need to focus on data governance. I think it's obvious from what I told you here that we at Luminus, together with the people of Data Minded, are really, really proud of what we did. We had a lot of fun, I think, doing it. We booked great results. And I think looking forward, we can only say that we hope that we can even transform our company more with data. Thanks for your attention.
Thanks very much, Bart. There was one question from the audience before we go on a break. It was a very simple one. Even I can answer it. So if I get my screen back, there is. Yeah, there it is. So the questions was, no, there's 3 questions by now. First question is, will the slides be shared? So yes, I can answer that question. The other 2, that might be more difficult. So first one, Bart, what's the ratio of cloud cost and people cost, the actual price of the energy on my bill? That I can't answer. I'm going to hand over the mic.
Oh. First of all, if you look at your bill, you see that the Luminus part is only a small portion of it. That's not No, but honestly, what we saw is that if you look at the actual cloud cost that we have, like for instance, for complete storage, it's 2K a month at this point in time. And also for the data processing cost, it's below that amount. So I think if you look at like the cloud costs, that has gone down. We have some examples where we chose to do it in a suboptimal way, so to reprocess some data. Why? Because it was more expensive to write a correction program than to just take the cost. So I think going forward, your OPEX cost on cloud is going down a lot, but still you need to watch out that you do things in the right way because at some point in time, you can get cost spikes if you're not careful of what you do. So we do a very close cost follow-up over cloud costs. And I think it's even cheaper for us in our particular context than doing it on-premise because, typical in data, you guys know that you have peaks that you need a lot of power, and a lot of the time you don't. So you don't need the complete infrastructure to be available there for the full day. That's also one of the reasons why we're moving our data warehouse workloads from on-premise to the cloud. Is that an answer to your question? I don't know who's asked the question.
All right, let's do the next one as well. It's impressive to see the speed up from old to new. Do you have any insights and complete ROI of what was built?
I'm not allowed to share these numbers, I think, Christian. No, but to give you some examples, Nick and Bernard both made models that are basically better information that what you can buy with commercial partners. So in a trading context or in forecasting, as Luminus, we are responsible for making sure that what we put on the net is as much as what we need. And by being able to do this better, it saves us costs. So some days we saved a few $100K by having one of these models running, but it's not all days, it's not Christmas. So what we see on optimization generation side, it's really euros, but like on the retail side with customers, it's very difficult to make their return on investment because you can give very good qualified leads to your sales organization, but in the end, it's a human action that makes sure if you book the return on investment. And honestly, it's sometimes difficult to get investments in data validated because of the fact that some of these things are just like an enabler to realize other things.
All right, two more, I think. So you mentioned data. Do you also have a governance with data stewards in place, and how is it working for you?
We are putting in place, that I mentioned, like one of the 3 pillars on the Trinity program is a data governance track, and there we are indeed identifying data stewards and data owners and data custodians. And I have to say, in the beginning, there was a lot of cynicism. Why should we do this? But in the meantime, since people really understand, look, if I spend time on doing this, I will improve that process. I think there it's very important to identify a number of early champions, and we have some of these who are really also able to explain to other people in the team, look, this is why we need to do that. And we also have communities of practice. We have one already for data scientists and data engineers since a few months, but recently we also started a data steward community of practice, and they insisted on having a session every 2 weeks because they realize how important. And it's much more better than these guys explaining it to their colleagues than some IT know-it-all telling them why they should do that.
All right, final question. You're doing well on answering the questions. So do you use a reporting and a dashboarding product? I think there's a Tableau salesperson in the room. So no?
Too bad, we use Qlik. No, we use Qlik. We use QlikSense, and also in the context of this program, we have now QlikSense on-premise, and we're also moving that to the cloud because we clearly say, look, for these kind of workloads, it's a good thing. But we are complementing Qlik with like capabilities for our Shiny and for dashboard because Qlik has advantages, specifically as a dashboarding tool. But for some data scientists, some visualizations, they prefer, of course, other things.
All right. All right. So thanks once again, Bart, for this.